We had just discovered what it meant to mouth olive juice. From across the room, that looks like you're saying I love you to someone, right? Within a day or two, he would catch me from across the room and he would mouth olive juice to me. And that's where it begins.
This is episode 32 of 1F Jeff.
32 shows up in systems that have become organized enough to function as a whole. A chess game begins with 32 pieces, a complete and balanced setup. Humans develop 32 adult teeth once growth is essentially finished. Water freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, a clear physical threshold. In older symbolic systems, 32 was used to represent a complete map of understanding and the idea of internal alignment, the point where perception, decision, and action are coordinated.
Hello once again, my friends. How are you? As always, I do hope you're thriving. I hope you saw the sun today. I hope if you did see the sun, that you felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude flow through you, because I haven't seen the sun in quite a while. And to clarify, when I say see the sun, I don't mean look directly at the sun, because that apparently burns your eyes out. Although I've yet to meet anyone who that's happened to. Trump did it on TV years ago during an eclipse, stared right at the sun, and he can still see. Honestly, I'm not sure if it would be better if he was blind. I think it might actually be worse. Hey, food for thought. I digress. My guest today is Essie Baird.
Essie Baird is a Columbus-based actress and filmmaker whose work centers on intimate, psychologically sharp storytelling. She wrote, directed, and starred in the short films Orange and Red, projects that foreground interior states, power dynamics, and the subtle mechanics of harm and self-awareness. As a performer and director, her work is marked by restraint, emotional precision, and a refusal to sensationalize difficult material, placing lived experience and internal truth at the center of the frame.
I met Essie through this film networking group I've been a part of here in Columbus for several years. The first time we met, I told her I was starting this podcast, and I was still struggling to come up with a name. And then at some point later in the conversation, it came up that my Instagram was 1F Jeff, and my website's 1fjeff.com and so forth. And she's like, 1F Jeff? That's the name of your podcast. That has to be the name. And she was right. So thank you for that, Essie. Most of the conversations that I've had on this podcast have been fairly light, which isn't to say that we haven't talked about dark or controversial subjects, but the general tenor of the conversations has, as far as I can recall, remained fairly light. This one with Essie fairly quickly took an unexpected turn, for me at least, into a disturbing and difficult story about childhood sexual abuse. So, if hearing about experiences like that is upsetting to you, this may be an episode for you to skip. That said, it is an important story that needs to be told, because stories like this don't get told nearly often enough. And I'm grateful to Essie for being open and vulnerable in sharing it on my podcast. We also talk about her films and spirit animals, the joy of sewing, past lives. So, something for everyone. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Here's my conversation with Essie Baird.
Let's talk about anxiety.
Wow, we're going right in there. I was going to start with some sort of introduction, but we can...
No, but I was thinking about this today, and I've always prided myself, for a long time, as being a millennial that did not suffer from depression and anxiety. I was like, wow, I've escaped this. But then post-COVID, I decided that I do, in fact, suffer from anxiety and depression.
I think we all do.
And so it was just kind of one of those funny things that I woke up today thinking about this podcast and very, very anxious to come on today and just talk, which is interesting. I'm like, what is that?
It is.
That's not been the case for me all my life.
Right. I mean, Yeah, it's interesting because it's like a forced conversation, right? We have to keep going.
It's sort of similar to what I was talking about earlier. You asked me what was in my bag. And I was saying I do start with different types of journals.
Right.
And I do try to organize them like this journal is for this specific subject.
Right.
But one I recently started was the one specifically to be read like by someone. Like, and I think we never really admit that there's this risk of our journals always being read, right?
But I mean, once you're gone.
Sure, once you're gone, but hypothetically, what if they're read before you're gone?
Well, you have to keep very close watch on them in that case.
So I feel like this podcast is essentially like the journal that you're writing to be read.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. So you just want to open your journals and start reading from them, or?
Let's get some more foundation first.
Right. So I met Esty at a film gathering. We met at a film gathering, if I recall. And I have to give you credit because you're the one who actually gave me the idea for the name for the podcast. Because I was telling you I was like trying to start a podcast at the time, and I couldn't come up with a good name. And then I told you that like I think I gave you my business card or something,
Mm-hmm.
and my business card's 1F Jeff. That's kind of my brand. And you're like, that's the name. That's the name of your podcast.
Yeah, for me that was so obvious.
Right, and it wasn't
Never
obvious to me.
having met
right.
you,
right.
and especially now knowing too the nature of the podcast.
What do you mean by that?
Again, it's like your journal that you're wanting people to read. It's like you are doing this purely out of the enjoyment of having conversation. Am I
Yeah,
right?
connection, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it felt, oh, you're Jeff with 1F. You're 1F Jeff. This is your podcast. There's not
Sure.
a big a stretch in what is the podcast about.
Yeah. Yeah, I still
it's
people
just
don't.
you.
I still don't
It's
know
1F
necessarily what it's about. But
Jeff.
yeah,
It's you. It's
Yeah.
about you.
yeah, and
That's what
hopefully
it's about.
I can market that and get Moon Wine to sponsor this podcast.
Yes, moon
Yeah,
wine.
Moon Wine, delicious, refreshing.
It's not. That's not quite how I would have described it. Moon wine.
Oh well, we'll work on it. Maybe it'll get more refreshing
re-
as you go. So anyway, thank you for giving me the title for the podcast because that was a big hump to overcome. And here you are now. So I don't really know a whole lot about you. I know about your movies and stuff like that, but like, where did you grow up in Columbus?
Yeah, I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, specifically Upper Arlington, and I always feel like there's a very like initial reaction to that because there's a lot of, especially now. So I currently live in Franklinton, and when I tell people where I'm from, they're always just a little bit surprised because I think they don't expect me to say that. I don't know.
What do you think the stereotype is of Upper Arlington that people assume?
Rich, white,
Oh, all right.
upper class community.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, though.
Are you actually saying there's nothing wrong with that? Or are you being sarcastic?
No, not at all.
Because-
Not at all. I mean, like you had nothing to do with that. It was just your parents. Like, you're born into a family that has some money, and like I wish my family had more money when I was growing up.
Okay, so that's the thing. Like the irony of you assuming that I was born into a family with money
Ah, I see.
because I live in Upper Arlington,
But-
right?
Right.
So that's actually not true at all.
Oh, okay. So these assumptions, right?
Yeah. So, but I mean, sure, did my parents afford a home in Upper Arlington and fight tooth and nail to stay afloat every single day to maintain residency in that neighborhood to give my sister and I the best education? Because, when at that time, Upper Arlington was one of, if not the top, like education that you can get in Central Ohio. So that was the big appeal. And so, but that was a huge barrier, like growing up, in terms of my perception of reality was like very different from the rest of my schoolmates.
Oh, right, because you were one of the poor people at the school.
But to say that now sounds so like I grew up in Upper Arlington, like I was the poor kid in Upper Arlington.
Right.
It's still
Yeah.
not true, but in my world in Upper Arlington, that was the truth, and that was how I saw it.
Right. The suburb that I grew up in Northern Ohio was fairly well-to-do. And, I mean, we were somewhere in the middle, I think, in terms of like, but like I didn't have a car when I was in high school or anything like that. And a lot of people had cars and stuff. And what were you like in high school? What kind of crew did you hang out with? Were you with the drama kids, or were you with the...
No, if we are putting it in Breakfast Club, I would probably be the jock.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, what kind of sports did you?
Soccer and basketball.
Oh, were you good?
Yes.
Oh, I like
but
that.
No.
Oh.
It's one of those things where, like, I feel like I came out of the womb playing sports. I was incredibly athletic.
Huh.
But because I was so superior from a growth and athleticism, because I grew faster than most other girls.
Right.
I never developed very good technique, because
Okay.
for a lot of years I could just outrun and outstrength, and I didn't have to be very finessed and very
Right.
good.
Natural talent.
Yeah, because I was just huge compared to most other girls my age.
Right.
And then we all merged in high school, same height, same weight, same all of that. And so while I had athletic abilities, I was not the star athlete, especially not in basketball.
How was high school? Was it good? Was it bad?
Oh my gosh. It's very difficult to say whether or not it was good or bad. My high school reality was probably quite a bit different than most high schoolers.
In what way?
I guess we'll just talk about it. I'm starting as a sixth grader.
Okay.
I entered into what I thought was a relationship with a teacher.
Oh.
So I was 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
In this relationship, I'm using air quotes right now,
Right.
went through my junior year of high school.
Huh.
So 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, into my 11th year.
Wow.
So, like, I didn't have a lot of friends in high school.
Right.
I had my teammates.
Was that a result of the lack of friends? Was that like a direct result of the relationship thing, quote unquote?
Yeah, we can go ahead and call it abuse.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. Like, I was controlled in a way that I obviously didn't realize I was being controlled.
Sure. You're 12 years old, right?
Yeah, that starting there, and then, entering into high school. A big part of his methods was rooted in religion.
Huh.
So girls that were having sex in high school were sinners. Kids that are drinking in high school are sinners.
Uh-huh.
And so the irony is obviously very, like, palpable there.
Sure. I mean, this, yeah.
Yes, because, of course, he was sexually abusing me. So it's hard to say what high school was like, because I was so consumed in a completely different reality.
Right.
And it's as if I don't remember either worlds because it was so split in half.
Mm-hmm.
That it's like that specific period, specifically high school. I remember a lot more from middle school, but once
Right.
high school hit, the memory is really vague.
Was he a teacher in your middle school?
He was the gym teacher at my middle school, as well as my track coach
Often the gym teachers, yeah.
or English teachers. That's the other one.
Oh, I've never heard that one, but yeah,
Yeah.
that checks out.
They usually gift their victims Lolita, the book. Yeah. It's a really popular
it's kind
thing
of funny,
to do.
but yeah.
No, I know.
I mean, I
is.
actually do love the book, but yeah, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine when this started, you felt probably like special.
Oh, I was so special. Everyone had a crush on Mr. Cutler.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, was he a handsome man?
But he chose me.
Right, right.
Yes, he was so hot.
Huh.
So hot. Like all the moms, all the girls, all the teachers.
Huh.
Everyone had a crush on Mr. Cutler.
How old was he?
25 when he started.
Wow. And
I was entering middle school, 6th grade. It was his first year of teaching.
So how did it start?
It's a kind of like an interesting, like, which start do you want to go down?
Whichever start you want to go.
Like the initial stages of grooming.
Yeah, I'm curious about the whole story,
like,
but as much as the story as you want to tell, I had no idea. So, like, as much of the story that you're comfortable telling, I'm curious about.
I mean, one of the first things I remember was all of the girls were running around. We had just discovered what it meant to say olive juice, what it meant to mouth olive juice
what does that
to
mean?
someone. If you mouth, like if I, and for the audience, I just mouthed olive juice.
Right.
At
Thank
Jeff.
you for that. It's no video. So thank you for.
And from across the room, that looks like you're saying I love you to someone, right? So he actually oversaw like the gym or the recess lunch period, and all of the girls were always, all the kids really, boys and girls, were always surrounding him, wanting to talk to him.
Like he was just a charming teacher.
Yes.
Yeah. The cool, charming teacher.
Yes. Yep. And we had just discovered this olive juice thing. And so, of course, we like all ran over to tell him. And we're like, Mr. Cutler, what do you think I'm saying to you right now?
Right.
And then it was within a day or two from that encounter that he would catch me from across the room, like looking at me. I was looking at him, and he would mouth olive juice to me. And I was like, oh my God, what did he just say? Did he just do that for me? And I think I ran over and I asked him, I go, did you just mouth olive juice to me? And he goes, yeah, but let's just shorten it to olive. That way, when I mouth it to you, people won't know or think that I'm saying that I love you.
Right.
And that's where it begins.
Wow. That's, first off, olives don't really have juice. So I just want to establish that. Yeah, that's creepy. It's like he knew what he was doing.
It's as if he knew what he was doing.
As perhaps he'd done it before.
Or perhaps it's happened to him.
Because abuse does beget abuse, Yeah. How did it proceed from?
It was a lot of little things like that kind of add up over a long period of time. Special treatment, like I was a 6th grader, but he allowed me to practice with the track team. He would also, he worked at a fitness center after school, and he told us which fitness center that he worked at, and he would tell us as in like a group of girls, to call him.
Right.
And I realize now that most girls never really had the guts to do that, right?
Right.
But I did. And I was, obviously some aspect of like super eager for attention and really trying to prove.
Well, no, it makes sense too, because like when you're that age, you want to impress
Yeah.
grown-ups, and like he was
Sure.
the coolest grown-up you probably knew at the time.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And so I would call him at the fitness center, and we would just talk on the phone for hours.
About what kind of things would you? I mean, you're 12 years old, and he's
Exactly. Can you imagine having a conversation with a 12-year-old
for hours. I mean, yeah, no.
Right. It was this very long, drawn out process. It was a very, very much a process of experimentation from his part. Like, let me throw these little baits and see who can I isolate.
Do you think there were more? It wasn't just you at the beginning. It was.
Oh, yeah. He
Okay.
cast a wide net.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He gave his number and told several girls to call him at work. My sister was one of them, her friends as well, because my sister was an 8th grader when I was in 6th grade.
Right.
So all of her friends were in on this too. And he would also pit us against each other. He'd be like, did you hear that so-and-so can do this many push-ups? Or, wow, I just saw so-and-so's abs. And I think that that's because she's doing this kind of ab workout. She has this, it's just like really
Right.
weird, strange examples like that.
Yeah. So, like, you became the one because you were the one who was,
Yeah.
engaging.
So it's hard to remember how I knew this, but I knew that he liked me, or that he had like selected me.
Right.
Right? And so my parents couldn't pick my sister and I up from track practice one night. So somehow he got permission or something to give us a ride home. And my parents weren't home. Obviously, they weren't around for some reason. So
Right.
he came inside, dropped my sister and I off, and came inside the house, and like trying to impress him because I
Right.
thought this was really cool. I
Right.
would tell him I was going on runs like really early in the morning or really late at night.
Sure.
So I was like, hey, Jane, my sister, hey, Mr. Cutler, I'm going to go for a run. Like, so ridiculous. It was, I don't know what time after work, but it was dusk.
Right.
So I go on a run up the street, and like, for some reason I knew to wait for him at the top of the street. And so I ran to the top of the street. I could see him pulling out of my driveway, and he pulled up next to me at the top of the street, and he rolled down his window, and I came up to the window, and it was something like, I want to kiss you, but I'm not allowed to, is what he said. And then, so that the daring little 12-year-old that I
right.
was leaned in and kissed him. Like, I remember that so specifically. And again, this is an adult man, but in my 12-year-old mind,
Sure.
I was just blown away
Yeah,
by
yeah,
the
yeah.
infatuation.
You're getting welcomed into the grown-ups world. Right.
Yeah. I'd clearly never felt anything like that. And yeah, it's a very insidious form of abuse.
For sure. Did your parents know it? Anything was like awry?
It's funny that, well, it's not funny that we're talking about this, but it's just interesting that we've gone directly into this. But it does form and shape a lot of my life. So if that's what you're asking about here, it's very, very significant in every part of my life.
I'm sure.
But my dad passed away in 2021.
Okay.
And ever since he passed, I've always felt like he was actually there.
Mm-hmm.
He did struggle with mental illness, undiagnosed mental illness. He was much older for even like my age parent.
Right.
So he just didn't really have the resources to be the parent that, I think my sister and I really needed.
Right.
But I share all of that to say that there is this part of me that thinks that he might have known and or suspected that something was happening. And I think it's kind of this willful blindness.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was this instinct in him that suspected something. Because he almost caught us once in the middle of the night in my house. So the teacher, the abuser, coached at Upper Arlington, but he himself lived in London, Ohio, which is about a 30-minute drive outside of Columbus, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
So after Friday night football games, because he had to get up early for film the next morning, he wanted a place to crash in Upper Arlington.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, over the period of time that he coached my sister and I, he befriended my parents.
Sure.
Got very
Of course.
close with my parents.
Of
My
course.
parents thought of him as like a son.
Sure.
Right. And we lived very near the high school, walking distance from the high school. So he, after Friday night football games, would come and spend the night at our house. And we had a split level house.
Mm-hmm.
There was a bedroom on the first level, the level you walk in on, that also had a screen door in the back getting to the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
The teacher had already started abusing me at this point.
Right.
And when we were looking at this house to buy it, we walked in and I was like, I need the first floor bedroom. Like, I was so insistent on having that bedroom because I was immediately seeking my exit points and my entry points.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, fast forward to Friday nights. He's spending the night. He would spend the night on the pull-out couch on the second level living room. And then he would come down to my level, and we were in the bathroom once. And we heard something. We heard someone moving upstairs.
Right.
And he was like, hurry, go back to bed. And I like ran out of the bathroom, jumped in bed, and I just fell face first on the bed. The bedroom door was open. I never slept with my bedroom door open. I never slept without covers on, but I was just on top of the bed, and I could hear my dad coming down, and he peeked into my bedroom, and I saw him out of the corner of my eye, and then I could hear him running into the teacher, and he was like, "Hey, what are you doing up, man?" And he's like, "Just going to the bathroom, He's like, "All right, I thought I heard something." And my dad went back upstairs. Again, I don't think that he knew. But I also don't think that he tried to go further.
That he wanted to know.
I don't think he wanted to know.
Right.
Yeah.
What about your mom?
I really don't think my mom knew. My mom was just as fooled as me and most people.
Did you know what was going on was illicit?
Yeah, like I knew as a 12-year-old student that I
Right.
was not allowed to be
Sure.
with a teacher. Like
Right.
I knew that was not allowed.
Right.
But I was so bullied by other girls,
Me too. Not by girls, but by guys.
by
But
other kids,
Yeah.
boys and girls, but specifically girls. They would make fun of me for being obsessed with Mr. Color. And so this was like a huge part of this cannot come out, because if it comes out, then my entire social life is gone and all these
Right.
people are going to oust me and I'm going to be kicked out and I'm going to be even more bullied than I already am.
Is that what he would say, or was that what you thought?
That was what I thought.
Was this going on consistently while you were, like, was it like a consistent thing the entire?
Oh yeah, yeah. This was my boyfriend in my reality,
Right.
and he was going to marry me.
Did
Like,
he would say the things
He
like
would say that. As soon as I turned 18, I was going to go to Ohio State, and then as soon as I turned 18, he was going to tell, my parents that he wanted to take me out on a date. And then after, enough months of dating, then we could say that we were in love, and then we could get married, and then we could live happily ever after.
Would you go on dates, or was it just like surreptitious meetings to?
We would go on dates to fast food restaurants.
Romantic? Yeah.
That's why I laugh, because I think about it. By the time I could drive, that's when we were able to actually go on dates. And
Right.
because it was a combination of me looking old enough to be with him in public
Okay.
and me having easier access to transportation.
Right.
Because up until I could drive, he would have to pick me up.
Right.
Like, he would usually take me to his house in London, Ohio, and I would hide under the retractable hood in the back of his Explorer. So I'd have to get into his vehicle at a time no one was around and watching, and wait there, pull the retractable hood and wait, and then I would wait for him to get in the car. But this could be up to an hour, because he would have me get there while he was in coaches meetings.
Right.
Anyway, that's how I would go to and from London, Ohio.
And you would tell your parents that you were going just hang out with friends, or?
Yeah, God, there's so many different things that I would tell them I was doing. A lot of times I would just tell them I was going to go play in the park or go somewhere that was on my own.
Right.
I don't even remember all the things I would tell my mom to get out of the house for certain hours, but my mom worked a lot.
Right.
So that added to a ton of the access to me, right? Dad's struggling to keep jobs because struggling with mental illness. Mom's working constantly to keep ends meet, keep it. What the fuck is the phrase? Keep the ends meet.
Right. Make the ends meet.
Make the ends meet. Thank
Yeah.
you. Make ends meet.
And your sister didn't?
I don't know what you were like in high school, but we didn't pay very close attention to one another,
Okay. How much older? was
She's
she?
a couple years older than me.
Okay, same.
And again, maybe there was some part of her that knew something was going on too. I do think that she and I have a very strong intuitive connection. But she was lied to and brainwashed by him as well. So
Right.
every person was in his corner. Everyone loved him.
Right.
He could do no wrong. So there's no one that I could point any fingers at
Charm goes a long way.
than to him.
Yeah.
He is solely responsible for the manipulation of me and my entire family and an entire community for that matter.
Sure.
And beyond.
Right. And was there like an actual like connection? Like, what did you guys talk about? Or was it so much based on his wanting to sexually abuse you that it was mostly just getting to that?
I remember him talking to me a lot about his family. And he would tell me about his relationship with his dad and how his dad was abusive towards him and that they were in constant conflict. They never got along. He would talk to me about his ex-girlfriend, Heather, who cheated on him with one of his buddies in college. So he elicited my empathy.
Sure.
Especially like as young as I was. And he would say things like, I'll never be happy until we're married. So like he put his entire purpose and happiness and existence on my little shoulders.
And do you think that that was true, that he actually did want to marry you?
Yeah.
Huh.
That's the scariest part. And that's why we don't come forward sooner with this kind of stuff. Because I do believe there is a particular perversion with these people that is, they are genuinely blind to what they're doing. They do not know
Right.
that they're abusing.
There's a sickness there, yeah.
There's a sickness.
Yeah.
And so that then is like in your head for so many years until it's like you start opening up to one person. Therapist was the first person for me.
Sure.
And then you slowly start to drip it to more and more people to like build strength, because you're like, well, no one's going to believe this. And I don't know if I believe this because I've never said it out loud.
Right.
Right. So it feels like very intangible. And then you start telling one story after another, and one person after another, and they all give you the same look. It's like that mix of deep sadness and grief, of course, a little bit of pity, but a lot of, I don't understand how you didn't see this until now. And that's the gap, right? That's the, like, seeing their reaction was the only thing that made me realize it was abuse.
Huh.
And then you're like, oh, shit.
But up until then, you didn't think of it, up until you started to talk about it when you were 30 or so. You didn't think of it as being... And how did it end?
I just remember feeling really trapped. I remember thinking, man, I really want to go to prom.
Right.
I really want to go to prom, and I'm not allowed to go to prom.
Because he wouldn't...
I wasn't allowed to go do anything social because
he was very controlling, right?
Because boys would be there, and what if boys were to hit on me or take me, or...
Right.
He would threaten me with a lot of ultimatums, and I don't remember what the ultimatums were specifically. It was like, if you continue doing this, I'm going to leave you for someone else. And so I do believe he started, and I know for a fact he was dating, like now in hindsight, listening to like other people and their witness testimonies, because I did pursue justice against this person.
Right.
Realizing that he was dating women while we were dating, like that was one of the things that, like, for me was still so hard for me to imagine, because again, my reality as a 6th through junior year of high schooler was that I was the only one, right?
He was dating other people in high school?
Throughout this whole time, because as soon as I was feeling this really, like, I was feeling trapped, and I was just realizing that I wasn't allowed to do anything, and I was pissed off about this. And then that mixed with his ultimatums. If you do this, I'm going to leave you for someone else. If you keep doing this, I'm going to leave you for someone else. I just remember one day, by this point, I could talk to him on my cell phone.
Sure.
And I just remember one day being like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm talking to him on my cell phone. I'm in my bedroom. I don't want to do this with you anymore. I fucking hate you. Fuck you. And I flipped my flip phone shut.
Right.
Slammed it shut,
Right.
really. And I just, like, remember, like, falling down onto my bed and thinking, I'm free. I did it. I'm out. And I felt so relieved. I just felt like the happiest I've ever been. So I genuinely, and when I say I don't remember, I really do not remember what happened leading up to that
Right.
moment. But I just knew that with the demands of high school, I was a really good student, got all A's, was a varsity athlete, like trying to have like a social life,
Right.
trying to make friends
Right,
really
right,
for the
right.
first time, because had never really figured that out or really decided that I had cared.
Right.
And I was having crushes on other boys. And I was really wanting to go to prom.
Right.
And I remember, like, all the boys I had crushes on. And I even actually talked to one of them, like, after I had come out with my story. And I called him. We chatted for a little bit because I was trying to see if he remembered anything. And I was like, I had the biggest crush on you. He's like, Essie, I had the biggest crush on you too. But I didn't know why you didn't like me. And it's like those little stories that like really
Yeah.
breaks my heart.
That gets you. Did he respond in a bad way, or did he just let it go after you?
I think because he kept threatening to leave me for someone else. I think he had already started dating.
Right, so he was
who is now his wife.
Wow.
And who's the mother of his children.
Who was in high school?
I believe that I remember him talking about Elaine. I'm not
Whatever.
hiding this
Yeah.
from anyone. Almost within months of me slamming my flip phone shut. Because we would stay in contact.
And
but
he's like 30 at this point.
Yeah. In his 30s, yeah.
But you think it was somebody else, like another...
I think that he was intentionally trying to make me leave him, and was purposely kind of blaming me for a lot of things at
Sure,
that time, because I
sure.
think he had met her. And I could go back through all the conversations I've had with people to kind of align these timelines
Sure.
of when they started. And I'm quite certain there was an overlap, which if I was Elaine, I'd be fucking pissed.
Yeah, I mean, either way,
Well.
I'd be fucking like, how can you marry? I
Right.
mean, that's just crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like, if I were in his shoes, I would be constantly concerned about getting in trouble for this kind of a thing, right? Like getting broken up with by you, and then you going out and starting to tell people, like...
Well, they keep an eye on you.
How do you mean?
They keep in touch with you on a regular basis.
Oh.
No matter what. You have done no wrong. They are rooting for you. They're like one of your biggest champions in life.
I see.
I'm here for you for anything.
Right. They're not the enemy, and there's no reason to go after the enemy because they're not the enemy, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So we had a text dialogue. Even like I kept a flip phone from college and dug it out, and it was actually used for evidence in my case. A text conversation that he and I were having my freshman year of college.
Wow.
So he kept in touch. He kept small circles with people.
Right.
He knew everything about my life.
And he was working at the high school up until
2018.
Wow.
Which is also the last year I texted with him, because
Right.
2018 was Me Too movement.
Right. Right.
And that along with turning 30, I was like waking up as in 30 was the year that I told the therapist for the first time. So it was the combination of Me Too movement along with talking to a therapist for the first time that things started to unfold for me.
So when you told the therapist the first time, you weren't aware that it had been a bad thing? Or was it starting to like...
It still really hadn't clicked.
Right.
It was one of those things where I was like, so I'm divorced.
Okay.
Me personally, I got married when I was 27, so 10 years ago. So that was 2015 that I got married. And something just I was just unhappy in my marriage. I feel like when you hit your late 20s, something you start like waking up to like the world, right? I remember getting a text from him around that same time, and I was just kind of like, I'm not going to answer that. For some reason, that really scares me to answer him right now. When you get a text from someone who you used to be so excited to get a text from, but then all of a sudden, like, the feeling in your body goes from, like, heart excitement to heart drops through, like, the depth of your soul and splatters on the ground.
Well, I guess not that intense level of...
That's what it feels like for me.
Okay.
And you're like, oh, shit, like, something you just woke up to, like, oh, something's really scaring me about this person.
Yeah.
That's what that text felt like. And I didn't reply. And he never texted me again after that. And this was 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And this was also shortly after another teacher had been found guilty of sexual harassment at Upper Arlington, a teacher that, he knew. So I think by me not replying to that text, there was like we are now at war.
Yeah.
But that was 2018,
Right.
right? And then, I didn't actually open an investigation until 2021.
So you realize this has happened. Obviously, probably when you tell the therapist the story, the therapist is like, well, clearly this is, not,
Mm-hmm.
And then how did it get from there to the decision to do the charges?
Yeah, it's an interesting progression because, like I said, the therapist was the first person I told. But then I started taking acting classes.
This is where we get to the acting.
And I was in an acting class, and this particular acting coach that I still work with, Kirk Boltz, shout out to Kirk Boltz. He's very much about actors writing their own scenes and own monologues. And right. So it was a monologue that I had written that really opened it, like cracked it wide open for me. And it was recorded because part of the class was like, at the end, you're going to have a recorded monologue for your reels. And then I showed that to my sister. And she was like, wait a minute, what are you saying? And to watch her go from completely pissed off at me for lying to her. She was fucking pissed.
Interesting.
How could you have not told me? Then to complete grief, sadness, betrayal, to like the reality of what had happened.
Right. I mean, I guess that.
And that arc happened in the course of an evening,
Right.
talking to her about it. And then at the end of the conversation, we're hugging and she's apologizing for her initial reaction. I'm like, it's okay. It's a lot. It's fine. I also lied to you. I did.
Right,
Yeah.
Right.
And then we're hugging and we're saying goodbye. And we look at each other. We're like, we can never tell Mom. We can never tell Mom. Because our dad had already passed at this point.
Okay.
And then, it was Child Sex Abuse Awareness Month. And I'm on Facebook. And I'm noticing that my 6th grade choir teacher had posted something about child sex abuse on his page. And my 6th grade choir teacher started the same year as Mr. Cutler at the middle school. So I was like, hey, I'd love to just get together with you, talk a little bit, catch up, see if you remember anything from middle school that, it was super vague. So we sit down, we're getting a beer in Franklinton. And I was like, hey, so you know what? I really actually reached out to you because I saw this thing that you posted on Facebook. And he was like, oh yeah, and I just proceed to tell him my story. And then he proceeds to tell me his story. And it was one of those like post-pandemic moments where we're like all in this like deep awakening, and this like you're waking up to like the reality of the world. And like we left the conversation just being like, wow. He was very like appreciative that I had shared and felt safe enough to share with him. And it was within days after that though that he messaged me and was like, I'm so sorry, Essie. I just wanted to let you know that I have just come from UAPD reporting the abuse of Mr. Cutler on you. I didn't think about this in the moment, truly, as you were telling me, but I am required by law to report abuse.
Right.
Especially because he was still a teacher and Cutler was still teaching, especially for somebody who's still around children right now.
Right.
I had to then go in and give my testimony. And once I gave my testimony, then it was like, we have about 48 hours to try to get a confession from this guy before they have to go in and take him out of the schools, because he could be abusing somebody actively right now.
I mean, they should take him out of the school either way, but yeah.
Right. So that's how it started. It was a teacher. I didn't even decide to pursue justice, but it was one of those things where it was like, I had just gotten a divorce. I got divorced early 2021. My dad died a couple months after that.
Right.
And this was a couple months after that. And I was like, fuck it.
So you're raw.
Let's go.
Right.
Here we go.
Right.
So I just was like, whatever, and then like, so I'm not at all upset that this teacher ignited that movement.
Sure.
My choir teacher, I mean, because I wouldn't be aware of any of this if he hadn't.
What do you mean?
I mean that once you decide to pursue justice, you are you force yourself to
confront it, right?
To truly confront it, to take it face on,
mm-hmm.
and to go all in on the reality of what actually happened,
right?
And that is the most devastating thing that I have ever faced and will hopefully ever face. I haven't been the same since. It has opened a leak that I haven't been able to patch up. I don't feel like I can't, and I don't feel like it won't. It's just harder. Everything just seems a little bit. I'm just super sensitive.
But I mean, it had to happen.
It did, yes, because for my growth as a human,
For sure.
I had to see this for what it was. And then I had to also see all of the parts of me that I did not like as a result of that.
Yeah, but...
or not. But
yeah, and I think looking back and regret and things like that are a lot of, and I know this is easy for me to say, but I think it's a lot of wasted energy. In this case, I feel like you had to rectify the things that happened in the past in order to move forward, right? But this never happened. Like the court case and all that, you would have been stuck in this place of like unreality, but to have to look that straight in the eye and finally say to yourself, this is actually what happened and this was bad. And yeah, I'm sorry.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yeah. It was a reckoning. It was
Yeah.
a reckoning with myself. That also came with a lot of self-hate, because how could I have been blind to it for so long?
But you were young.
Yeah, but I was young, but we become an adult when let's just argue, we become an adult when we're 25.
You don't need to do that.
Right, so
there's no good that's going to come of that, though.
I know, but like those are all of the reckonings that come with the decision to see it for what it was.
Right.
And then to go through your whole self-blame era and to still be battling it. I'd love to be like, it doesn't define me. It's not.
It doesn't.
It doesn't, but it plays such an interesting role in my perception of the world and my reality right now.
Sure.
But then I'm like, fuck that. It doesn't have that much power. I can decide that it doesn't hold any of that anymore.
Right.
And then as soon as I'm like, yeah, I don't believe that. And then something triggers me and I'm like, God damn it. My body's still holding on to something.
You gotta let go of that stuff.
Like all that stuff.
You gotta let go of all that. I mean,
And
it's the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, but it's so much easier said than done.
No, I get it.
I'm still working through that literally every day.
Yeah, I have like a workbook my therapist gave me to teach me to stop hating myself. Might be the same workbook you have. Yeah. Did it feel at all like there was a weight lifted?
It's this weird thing. Like, it feels in some ways lighter because the whole notion of the truth will set you free, like that really did feel, it felt like, oh, now I can tell anybody anything.
Mm-hmm.
Just because like that is like the thing that I was the most ashamed of. And now like, oh, literally nothing matters. There was such relief in that.
Yeah.
But I would say the weight of grief is still very, very, very heavy on me. And that's like the part where I say I just kind of feel like I'm constantly leaking. Like energy is leaking from me. And I'm just feel tired and sad a lot. But it doesn't feel like depression. It truly feels like I am just in this constant state of grief.
Do you feel like talking about it and rehashing it is helpful? Or is it actually keeping you back there?
I was asked that a lot. when I was going through all of the hearings, but I haven't really talked about it as much since then.
Right.
And my case kind of concluded about a little over a year ago. Like, the critic in me is like, you need to move on, Essie. Just move on. This is in the past. It's not relevant anymore. But then the writer in me and the person that wants to help explain this to others and help them understand what abuse really looks like in such a subtle way that this presented itself,
Right.
really values these conversations and finds them necessary because it's so subtle. His particular type of abuse is so subtle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so insidious because of that.
But is there a line between doing what's right for you and doing what's right for the world to know, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think there's an answer there. I'm
Yeah,
just asking the question.
I don't
you
know. It's tough.
Because it's got to be hard to talk about. Like, I'm watching you, and I understand. And I just wonder, like, where the line is between trying to make people aware of these kind of things. Because I think it's going on far more often than people realize.
It's very systematic. It's
Yeah.
in line.
I mean, there was every high school I know. Everybody, there was
Yeah.
the gym teacher in my high school. Yeah. But also doing what's right for your mental health and finding a way to move on. Because, I mean, and I'm not here with answers. I'm just asking the
Yeah.
questions,
Yeah.
I just want you to be happy. And I want you to be able to move on from this,
Yeah. So one of the films I made last year, which I just have 2 short films,
No, I watched them both.
was inspired. Both of them everything is inspired by,
Sure.
this, but like the second one called Orange was heavily inspired by this abuse and the idea that like I live with this guilt of not having come forward sooner. And it, like, a series of events like triggered in this film my awakening of my abuse and to like the reality that like I need to fight back, right? I forget what you asked me.
It was about the line between continuing to talk about it and moving forward. I think that was the last thing.
It's these films though that are catching people's attention, and between that and then also making my hearing public, a lot of people will open up to me about their abuse.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm extra hard on myself in those moments because I'm always like, oh shit, you gotta remember what it's like for them right now, because sometimes I don't remember what it's like. And in the initial moment, you're just like, I don't know what to say to this person right now. And that's wild. That's wild.
But that's okay.
Right? But and then you get home and you're like, oh my God.
What happened to the guy?
He was found guilty and pled guilty and was sentenced to an endangering children, which in the state of Ohio is a felony in the 3rd degree. But he was indicted and charged with multiple counts of rape, multiple counts of sexual battery, multiple counts of unlawful sexual misconduct with a minor.
Right.
And the prosecutors that I was working with said we won't settle for anything less than a sexual offense and a sexual offender listing or whatever. And through a series of events, ultimately let him off with endangering children, which wasn't anything that he was originally charged with, but it's something that they do in the state of Ohio charging people with a significantly less felony.
Today, former Upper Arlington coach and teacher Joel Cutler was sentenced to 3 months in jail after pleading guilty to child endangerment. This comes after he was accused of sexually assaulting a student over a 4-year period. NBC4's Delaney Ruth was at the sentencing and has what we learned.
Joel Cutler will now spend 3 months in jail and serve 5 years of community control after pleading guilty back in November. But the victim says this is not enough of a punishment. Essie Baird, a former Hastings Middle School student, came forward 2 years ago accusing Joel Cutler of sexually assaulting her between 2000 and 2003, starting when she was just 12 years old. At Cutler's sentencing hearing today, Baird, her mother, and her sister all gave heartfelt victim impact statements to the judge, sharing how Cutler's alleged abuse of Baird has had a huge effect on each of their lives. Judge Dan Hogan ended up sentencing Cutler to 3 months in jail, and Cutler can work out a schedule so he can have both a job and serve his term, saying that Cutler's wife and children rely on his income. Judge Hogan says this may look like Cutler going to jail only on weekends. He'll also be on community control for 5 years. Baird says she is very upset with the outcome of today's sentencing. She says this process felt like a waste of her time, but she still doesn't regret coming forward. And she hopes that other children do not have to go through the same thing.
It's crazy to me that he's married now.
Still married. How do you... After, through it all, she did not leave.
And with kids.
Yes.
I wonder what story, he probably charmed her with stories about, oh, this is just blah, 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 you know.
Yes.
I've known people like that.
Yes.
These charming sociopaths who.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They kind of go together. I mean, it's like Donald Trump.
Because of their faith and forgiveness, you know. We got to forgive people, right?
We do have to forgive people. Well, that's the complicated part of the story is that, like, you know, you suggested earlier that he was abused himself, and it sounds like he maybe was, right? Perhaps.
I don't know.
So where do you start to, I mean, he's clearly a sick person, right? Who needs help in some way. It's just a cyclical thing that makes other, you know, it's a horrible thing, but I mean, you wonder what happened to him that made him like this. And then what happened, you know, I don't know. Yeah, it's all fucked up.
It's super fucked up.
Anyway, I liked your movies.
Thank you.
Yeah. I liked Orange quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved Orange.
Yeah, it was really good. It was really good. And you're going to make, how many more of these in this series are you planning to make?
Oh, fuck.
It's hard to make movies.
It is. It's really hard to make movies.
Especially on the level, like you put effort into those and the production and stuff. Like it was, they were good.
They were very high production value.
Did you submit those to a lot of festivals?
No.
Oh, you should. You should. Those would get into some.
I thought so too. I submitted like to a handful. I got into Cinema Columbus.
Yeah.
I was like very, very, very proud of that.
Yeah, no, that's great. I would just say that I've been to a lot of film festivals, and like a lot of the stuff I saw at these festivals was not on the caliber of what you made there.
I think I shot really, really high for these first couple of short films, and the lesson learned in it was that it's probably not sustainable at the rate that we were going, and so I had to like go back to the drawing board, and you know, a lot of the people that helped me make these, their worth is just so much more than what I could offer, and it just doesn't feel, until I have proper funding, it doesn't feel right.
Yeah. With those two films as your proof of concept, I think you could absolutely crowdsource and get money for those things. Just saying.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so after all that we've just gone through, Essie, what brings you joy?
I just really love making cool shit with people I love. I think that probably brings me like the greatest joy, as well as super simple things like dinner parties. I just really love dinner parties.
Yeah, I haven't been to a dinner party for a long time. I
love like getting together and eating food.
Yeah.
I love smoking a joint with a small dinner party. Smoking a joint, eating food, dancing with my headphones on, singing at the top of my lungs in my living room. That brings me a lot of joy. I really love sewing.
Oh.
learned to sew through Columbus Parks and Rec, and I am obsessed. I'm obsessed.
What's the most impressive piece that you've made?
Well, I made a dress for myself for my film festival that I was in this year.
Oh, nice.
So
I like that.
And then I did one like rendition of it for the festival, and then I wore it later that season to a wedding, and I completely altered it to be almost an entirely different dress. And I think that is the obsession. It's like, wow, I have the power to make these garments anything that I want them to be. Also, it makes your wardrobe just much more eclectic and versatile, because you can buy the fabric of a dress that's several sizes too large at a thrift store, and then
Fix it
to
Yeah.
fit you. And then it fits you like a glove. So I don't often make anything from scratch. Like, that's not really the thing. It's the enjoyment of evolving something from what it was to something just magical
Well, that's fun.
that fits you perfectly.
It's good to hear you have a lot of things that are bringing you joy.
Yeah.
That was a good list. Most people struggle with that answer. They're like, especially in these dark times, right?
I always think about like what my magic is.
Okay.
My magic is I bring in spirit animals.
Oh.
And what I mean by that is I just really feel like I have some very strange like animal encounters
Okay.
that like not normally does this animal encounter a human in this like way.
Right.
And then like through my meditation practices, I feel like between the real life encounters I have and then like my meditative states, I see animals like always.
Okay.
But just to back up, a spirit animal is an animal that comes in to give you a message. Most people think their spirit animal is something that they are, and it's like their identity for life. That's more of a totem animal. A totem animal is with you for life. A spirit animal is temporary. It comes in to give you a message.
This whole time I've been thinking about it all wrong.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And then there's power animals. Power animals are animals you can like call in.
I had no idea there were this many different
But
genres of animals.
I'm coming full circle here.
All right.
My current spirit animal is a spider, and I was just journaling about the spider today. So spider is a feminine creature. She's representative of divine feminine.
Okay. Didn't know that.
But naturally, she's a very patient creature.
Right. Traps men in her web.
Well, more specifically as it relates to you,
Right,
I was going to say
no, I'm just making jokes.
She casts and weaves a wide web, and she's very patient. It takes a long time to create what she's doing, but she sits and waits. So you are creating this podcast, and through which you are casting a very wide net web. And I think the universe is going to respond to that.
I think so too, and I hope so too.
You just need to call in the power of spider.
We'll see.
It's also your main art form is editing, yes? Like, you're an editor.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So
I mean,
you can tell a different story.
Yeah, I'm gonna mix up all your words to make a whole different thing.
No,
yeah.
I know, but that's a huge part of this exercise.
Yeah, but it's not what I'm doing. I'm not trying to. Everybody's got these stories that they hold on to, and rarely do people have the opportunity to talk about them. There's been interviews that I've done where people like realize what this is, like about 30 minutes in, and you can see like a relief, like that they can just talk and tell me what they've been thinking about and the story of this thing that happened or whatever it is. And it really is, it's wonderful for both of us because it's like, yeah, it makes me feel good and it makes them feel like I want to tell my story and I've got somebody to tell it to, you know, because everybody's got a story.
Everyone has a story.
And usually it's a good story. Is there any question that you feel like you've always wanted somebody to ask you, but nobody ever has? Or even just, is there a question that you want me to ask you in this podcast that I would never ask?
You would never ask.
Take your time.
Ask the question that you would never ask.
Oh, are we doing that? Are we doing that? I don't know what that question would be. What were you getting out your journal for, though?
You're gonna think I'm crazy, but I mean, it's fine.
I don't think anybody's crazy because if you're actually crazy yourself, then you can't judge anybody else.
Okay, so we talked about.
I love this that you've got a book of questions now that you're going to start asking me. This is going to be an 8-hour-long podcast. We got another bottle of wine.
You asked
let me roll
me,
a joint. Yeah.
If there was a question that no one's ever asked you.
Yeah.
And this was the question I wrote down at the end of my spider journaling because again, when a spirit animal comes in, I gotta journal about it. I gotta figure out what spider's trying to tell me.
Yep.
And one of the prompts that I asked was, what patterns do I express in my communication? So the question that no one's ever asked me that I'm just dying for a podcaster to ask me is, what patterns do you express in your communication?
Okay, one second. Hold on. Essie, what patterns do you express in your communication?
It's so funny you bring that up, Jeff.
Yeah, I know. It's just a random question that I usually have in the list.
I just wrote that down as a journal prompt.
Whoa, dude. That
is wild. I was journaling about what spirit animal was coming in to tell me. And she asked me, Essie, what patterns do you express in your communication?
And what did you say? Extended pause.
Trying to think of something really
You don't have an answer. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
I didn't.
All this build up and then there's no answer.
Well, that was the last thing I thought about. What patterns do I express in my communication?
See, I don't feel like this is a question I actually wanted people to ask you because I feel like if there's a question you've wanted people to ask you, you'd have an answer immediately. Like what's your favorite color, whatever that is.
Well, you said it wasn't that that was the prompt. What's a question that you wish
people would ask you?
Someone would always ask you.
Yeah. You know, it's a question I wish people would ask me more often.
Yes, please tell me.
How are you?
Really?
People ask me it sometimes.
That question.
Why?
Well, most of the time I get it via text.
No, I hate that. That's okay. I retract it. On the phone or in person. That's what I want to hear. On a text, how can I possibly explain how I am in a text message? Do you want to?
Exactly.
Right. Do you want me just to text for an hour now?
So overwhelming, and I can't answer.
I'm just like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Thanks. How are you?
Right.
Text
Exactly.
messaging is so stupid.
But same anxiety goes for asking it in person, because is someone asking me this because they actually want to know, or is someone asking me this? And I think that that's also part of.
Well, we're such overthinkers to a degree. It's insane. Yeah, I feel you. Overthinking is my bread and butter, and that spoke to me. But what I will say is just asking the question to me is a lot of times just enough. Intent doesn't matter, because just saying, how are you? Because there's people I'll talk to on the phone sometimes, and they'll tell me how they are without even me prompting them, and will not ever get to the point where like, but how are you? And that, it drives me a little nuts.
So how are you doing?
Thank you for asking, Essie. I'm doing all right. I'm doing pretty well lately. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. I mean, it's been a good year. It's been a year of discovery and a year of personal growth, and a year of not having to work very much. And I'm grateful for that. So yeah, how are you?
I'm really happy to hear that.
Oh.
I was actually thinking about that today. I have a friend who was just texting like that she was having some tests done at a hospital and she asked for a ride home, and I'm like, of course, yeah, I can give you a ride home. But I was thinking both to be asked to like be that friend, but also to see her for her vulnerability in asking. I don't know. I just like
No,
it
I
was
totally
one of those
get
like
that.
tiny moments today that was just really special.
Right. Yeah, the studies that come out about happiness pretty much all say that the real key to happiness is helping other people. Like the happiest people are the ones that help other people. So like things like, giving rides to people from the hospital, giving rides to people to the airport. These things are the things that really actually tend to bring people the most joy. So yeah.
It's really sweet.
All right. What do you think happens when you die? See, I love that you knew the question because you're a super fan. You get a T-shirt.
Yeah.
You get a sticker.
Yeah, hey, when I met you at the film event and you're starting this thing, and then I saw you at a subsequent month.
At the fire station museum.
Yeah,
which was
and
pretty
you're
weird.
like, I'd love for you to take a listen. And I was like, yeah, I will. And then I'll provide you feedback.
You didn't give me feedback.
I didn't give you feedback, but I listened.
Right.
Which is
enough.
pretty good.
No, it really is.
Considering we
The amount of content that's
are
out there.
great at saying things we intend to do and sometimes not
And
doing.
there's so much content. How can you possibly? Yeah.
But I wanted to listen because I knew you.
Right.
I'm like, oh, I know this person. And then like even cooler that it was interesting.
And now how much better do we know each other?
Yes.
I mean, we do.
We do.
Right.
Yeah. I'm like, I was just kind of super honored for you to ask me to be on this. So I've been thinking about this question because
Wow.
you
you
always end
knew.
your
You knew.
podcast.
I might mix it up.
With this question. I think I like, given my spirit animal connection, or given the fact that I do truly believe that like everything is alive and that we're all just like energy bodies, it feels really fun to think that we reincarnate into different things. And to think about past lives of mine and knowing that I feel a connection to previous, mostly people. I do feel like I come from like a long line of people prior to being any animals. So I actually feel very good about the fact that like my most recent past lives are humans, I think personally.
Sure. I mean, you're the only one who can speak to that.
But like, have you ever come across someone you're like, they were an animal in their past life, their most recent past life? That is a person that has gone from being an animal and now they're reincarnated as a human, and you can tell.
Right. There have to be some. Well, there have to be some because there's.
Which I feel like most men actually.
Oh, what's mine?
I don't know you well enough yet.
Oh, all right.
And I wouldn't say necessarily that you fall into an animal most recent past life, but I think like women come from other people, but men typically reincarnate from an animal.
That works out with the math, because the math with reincarnation never worked out for me, because there's like so many more people that there would have to be, Yeah. So you don't. What was your last incarnation?
I was an old man.
Oh, all right. That came from what? A lizard or something?
I was an old monk.
But you weren't an old monk the whole time. You were young at one point in this. Like, are you suggesting that you can kind of just inhabit?
I can only access the
old
old
part.
man
Right.
in me.
All right. I've met a lot of women who say that they are old men at heart.
And I think that's a lot of us have the old.
You think that a lot of old men are being reincarnated?
I think we have a lot of old white men inside of us.
I'd be okay with I'd be totally cool with being reincarnated into a younger woman. If that's what happens.
If that's the cycle.
Sure. Yeah, if that's the cycle, I'll take it. It'd be interesting to have like boobs and stuff. You know?
I specifically was a monk, though. Like, I was in a monastery.
Okay.
I wore a robe,
Oh, what color?
gray,
Oh, very benign.
kind of very like Shire, like a source of wisdom. But I didn't actually understand why I had the wisdom I had. I think it was like more like because I lived this monastery or monastic life. Is that a word?
Monkish monastery.
Whatever.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
That I like kind of just knew the answers. But I think that when I passed, I decided I need to go into a person's life that is going to like live and see and experience it all.
You think you get to choose?
I think there is a choice as long as you earn the choice. I think there is like a spectrum of earning.
I mean, do you feel like the Buddhist
Like-
thing where you have to go around and around again until you get it right and then you finally reach nirvana?
I don't know what the Buddhist thing is.
Oh, it's like you continue to do life until you do it right. And then when you do it right, then you achieve nirvana.
maybe
the rock
it's something
band.
like that. I don't know.
You can play Come As You
Then
Are.
you
and-
come to
yeah.
yeah, I do think like you have to earn the right to choose your next life. And I think that the man that I was before was an honest, good man. He was just boring as fuck.
Mm.
And he was like, I'm gonna put myself into, I'm gonna be a woman.
You've thought a lot about this.
And
Right.
she's gonna live a very interesting life.
She's going to turn people's
Because I've been like,
oversized clothing into new
because I've
clothing.
been confined to this fucking confessional box.
Confessional box.
That would be a priest.
Yeah.
I don't think I wasn't
Yeah.
a priest. But I was just
I
a
feel
monk.
like you're kind of making this up as you go, but that's fine. It's not a problem.
Is that a problem?
No, it's
This
never a
is
problem.
what we call an active imagination,
No,
Jeff.
I
and single
I
living
let
by
the podcast
myself.
I let the podcast go wherever it goes.
We've talked about spirit animals.
No, we've gone there. Yeah, you didn't ask what was the magic question you had for me.
Oh,
Something, what's
yeah,
my
yeah.
magic?
What's your magic?
What does that mean?
I
Oh,
give you
she
no
shrugged. She shrugged.
context.
She shrugged.
I give you no context.
For anybody who was not able to see, because it's an audio only podcast, she just did a shrug. What is my magic? I mean, that's an interesting question. I think that lately I'm good at trying to help people figure their shit out. Like I'm good at trying to give. I'm better at giving people advice about how to figure their shit out than I am at taking my own advice. You know what I mean? This is a common thing, right? Also, I can do some magic tricks. So yeah,
Wow. What kind
yeah,
of
I
magic?
can show you one. I got one downstairs.
Is it cards or
No, it's a magic.
rabbit out of
it's
a
a-
hat?
It's like a rod with gems in it. Yeah.
A rod with gems in it.
And that's going to wrap up the podcast. Essie, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. It was wonderful to get to know you better and talk to you. And thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to know you.
You too, Jeff.
Wow.
Thank you.
That was very convincing. That sounded like you were terrified. You wanna
I'm
try-
just I am having the realization. I was like, oh fuck, we just talked for 2 hours.
2.5.
And what did I say?
Oh, man. You talked about all sorts of things. Yeah.
What did I say?
No, you didn't say anything bad, I don't think. Anyway, we're going to do it one more time. Essie, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Thanks, Jeff, for having me on. That's your line. Something like that. Yeah. I like to end these kind of
I'm
clean.
an
No, we're going to try it. We're going to try it
wait,
again. You're an
wait,
actress.
I'm an actress.
Yeah, yeah. So we're going to try it one more time. So that about does it for this episode of Okay, I got to take 6. All right. So that about wraps it up. Essie, thank you so much for coming.
Jeff,
All right, we'll try it one more time.
I've never been more honored to be on a podcast before.
Oh, there you go.
I have never had the opportunity to share my story in this way, and I am incredibly grateful for the present moment that we're in right now and your ability to have a conversation.
That was perfect. Thanks, Essie.
So that ending, or I suppose all those endings, is what happens when you share a bottle and a half of wine while recording a podcast. Thank you again, Essie, for coming on and sharing your story. It meant a lot to me, and I really enjoyed our conversation in spite of the darkness. If you or someone you know has been affected by sexual abuse, you can get help anytime through the National Sexual Assault Hotline at 1-800-656-HOPE or on the internet at rainn.org. You can follow Essie on Instagram at Essie Like the Star. That's ESSIE Like the Star. I'll put links to her films Orange and Red in the show notes, and I highly recommend you check them out. They're great. You can follow the podcast on Instagram at 1FJeffPod, and you can email the podcast with your questions, concerns, confusion, show ideas, guest ideas, job offers, anything at all, to 1FJeffPod@gmail.com. I do have a bit of good news to share. I got one new Patreon subscriber this week, and that person is the coolest person of 2026, as far as I'm concerned. If you too would like to be a cool person in 2026, to me at least, please don't dally. Head straight to that Patreon page, patreon.com/1FJeff, and sign up for as little as $5 a month. In this economy, $5 means nothing. It's like, oh, I found $5 on the street. What am I going to do with this? I was going to throw it away, but I can give it to that guy for his podcast. That's what we're talking about here. $5, very little. You can also donate $25 a month. You can also donate $7.50 a month, $8.25. It's up to you. And current Patreon subscribers, I love you very much. And I'm going to leave you this week with a quote from the late, great Thich Nhat Hanh. The Buddha taught me that there is no birth, there is no death, there is no coming, there is no going, there is no same, there is no different, there is no permanent self, there is no annihilation. We only think there is. I'll see you next week.
Very good, Jeffrey.